Hello, everyone, and welcome to Seriously Loco, the Seriously Crazy fan podcast for El Paso Locomotive FC. I'm your host, Phil Bakke, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Mikka Burrell. Mikka, it's a Monday night after a Loco win. How are we feeling right now?
Feeling pretty good, Phil. It's been a little bit since our last episode. Had lots of travel, Easter holidays, all that stuff. So in the meantime, I've been trying to write for our faithful listeners. So, but glad to be back on the mics and to talk about yet another positive result for Locomotive.
Yeah, it's been a great start to the season, and I've appreciated the content generation, like keeping it rocking even when we weren't able to record. So yeah, there's been, obviously tons to talk about in this episode. Well, first off, I guess if you're finding us for the first time, we're on any podcast platform you could hope to find us on, and Patreon as well. Our latest stuff is all free and everything unlocks after a certain period of time anyways, so no need to subscribe. But if you want to subscribe, you can get some exclusive stuff, and we'll likely see some more stuff as the year goes on. That being said, a lot to talk about in today's episode. Obviously talking about the win over Hartford, and probably just a little bit on the impressive start to the season from El Paso from a results perspective. And then looking ahead to just a couple of days time, about 48 hours from right now, we will be post-match on a U.S. Open Cup game in Houston, a very, very big opportunity for a red-hot Locomotive team. But we will break down the Hartford match first. And, in getting into conversation about this, I guess kind of the really the only place to start is with the lineup, in that this was a match that coming into it, Hartford pretty staunch defensively on paper. They've had a decent start to the season. They ground out some results that mostly draws. They're not like pulling up trees, but kind of a tough place to go. Obviously long travel, and Junior Gonzalez surprising us a little bit in that he's definitely prioritized the Open Cup to a certain extent, and I think benefited from some external circumstances as well. As congrats to Rubio Rubin and family on the welcoming of the newest little Loco. But the all of that circumstance led to a side in Hartford which was significantly changed from the last time out, the win over Lights, and I think 5 changes in total, and just a significant change to who was on the bench, and because a handful of players like Alex Mendez and Rubio Rubin don't make the trip at all.
Yeah, he's really shuffled the deck here with this lineup that he started in Hartford, and first and foremost, the goalkeeping merry-go-round continues. Sebastian Moramora checking back in after Abraham Romero's been trusted with more of the games as of late, but Moramora checks back in. Eric Calvillo back from suspension after the red card in Sacramento, so that's good to have the captain back. Diego Abidia leading the line, and someone that I think we've been looking for to step up with the opportunities that he's had, but finally he does get the opportunity to start, and I think he did make the most of it, to be fair to him. And then Gabi Torres, who of course was not available to start the season, despite being so important for us last season, does seem like he is a bit of like a squad player so far in the Junior Gonzalez era, which I find fascinating, right? That we're off to such a great start that a player like him can be rotated in, but he starts against his former side, actually, in Hartford Athletic. But yeah, those were just some of the changes. And I think you can't fault Junior Gonzalez and his chopping and changing so far, because it's not necessarily hurt us in any real way. And I still don't know if he's trying to figure out his best 11 or if he's really just into rotation. I really don't know. I suppose we'll have to see once we have a kind of a bigger sample size, but yeah, definitely changed it up, and the players that he called on did the business.
Yeah. the result, it's one of those things where the result kind of informs how you think about, I guess, the squad selection, right? Where everything looks great when you walk away 4-0 winners on the road, which I certainly don't take for granted. That being said, I think what I would say about this team is this feels like quite smart rotation from Junior, because I think we've seen, especially over the last couple of Locomotive manager tenures, we've seen kind of a game like this maybe get wholesale changes where it's just a completely different starting 11, and you kind of get the sense that it's like, and I don't know that, all these players are professionals. They're going to like do their level best. And sometimes the message you send when you do that big of a overhaul is I am mailing it in. Like, I do not care about the result.
Yeah, this is a free hit kind of thing.
Yeah. And I think what was smart about the changes that he made is he definitely rotated in some fresh legs. He keeps the two biggest weapons that Locomotive have at home, not having to make a several 1,000-mile journey out to Hartford. And it absolutely works a treat because you still have kind of the tone setters of this team are still in there in that starting 11 with Calvillo and Amano Moreno. He starts his like most senior and experienced center back pairing in, Palermo Ortiz and Tony Alfaro, who have not been his like preferred pairing. So, yeah, I thought it was a very interesting selection. It was also a bit of a departure shape-wise from where we've played, because we kind of played a back four and we saw a back three or back five, however you want to classify it this time out. So, yeah, a very interesting approach, a very, I think, shrewd approach from Junior. And maybe, I think, like, it's in this moment that I want to acknowledge the fact that, we have seen this team start probably a lot faster and get out to a lot better start than what we were maybe anticipating based on the roster. And, before a ball is kicked, you're obviously trying to piece a lot of things together that you haven't seen in practice. I think the Junior Gonzalez of it all could be like where I underpunched on this team, just because we haven't seen Junior in a situation like this. But the way he's handled some of these early season things, and obviously it's a long old season and there will be plenty more hurdles that he'll have to navigate. But this sort of decision making and this sort of like navigation of something as tricky as this big road trip right before a cup match, it does maybe belie a level of decision making and like and maybe man management that is a bit beyond what we've seen over the last couple of Locomotive head coaches.
I think that's fair, yeah, and I think that's the thing that I've been the most impressed by is not just the results, because of course, that's kind of the bare minimum that we want to see is good results, but I think the man management and the tactical changes in game as well have been very good. So yeah, he doesn't do kind of like the wholesale thing where it's like sending maybe the wrong message to your team as well as the opposition, right? But he rotates smartly and is able to count on the players. So yeah, for sure. I think that's fair enough to give Junior his flowers for that. Yeah.
The match itself and the way this ended up playing out, I mean, what we heard on the broadcast from Hartford's commentators kind of fluctuated between like big excuses for Brendan Burke and company, which, for those who remember Brendan Burke as, which I always will, as the very whiny Colorado Springs Switchbacks boss during his time there was a lot of discussion of the amount of players that Hartford were missing in terms of like injury availability and some like just general sort of registration and visa issues and like all of these other things that, to be fair, like all teams have to contend with. They kind of fluctuated back and forth between like, this is an abject performance and like, well, it's bad because they tried something and it didn't work. And there was a little less acknowledgement of Locomotive have obviously undone much of their game plan too. And like, they kind of sniffed out exactly what Hartford was trying to do and just made it not tenable quite early on in the match. And it was basically just a case of, I guess the opening goal was kind of emblematic of everything in that they didn't expect Locomotive to press as much as we ended up doing. And they immediately get caught lacking, like on just a bad ball out from Makangila, I think, who's a Brendan Burke, standby here. But yeah, just some like sloppy play out from the back, and Calvillo has us 1-0 up, and it's kind of like it was smooth sailing essentially from there. But it felt like, where I guess do you like pin this? Is it just like, hey, this was a Hartford team who was just like wholly unprepared for what Locomotive brought? Is the Hartford team just like not that good? Or was it like, this is a decent Hartford team that like got caught on the wrong day and just had a bad night at the office?
I mean, I think that you're right to point out that Hartford's announcers, which of course it's the homers in them, right, are focused on where their team lacked. But I think we just simply outplayed them. I mean, so, going back to Calvillo's opener in the 12th minute, it's really, not only is it good pressing from us, and we rushed Hartford into a lot of bad decisions, bad tackles all night long, it's good counter pressing as well. I mean, Calvillo nicks the ball right off of, I think it's Obalola in the midfield.
It was Obalola. That's right. Yeah,
it was a bad ball to him that he could not then control. And then Calvillo, we know he can hit him more times than not. Even if it's not going in, it's going to be on target. The goal itself's a little weird because I'm still not sure if Siaha was unsighted or if the ball deflected off like Fisher as it was going in, because it seems to kind of like knuckle in and like catch him out timing wise or reaction wise. So kind of a weird goal, but still though, for the way that it's created, I think is kind of emblematic of how we played. I think Hartford, I think they came into this, did they come into this game undefeated? Is that right?
Yeah, this was their first defeat, and the first time they conceded first in a game this season. They'd given up 5 goals in the league like up to this point.
Yeah, so I mean, to your broader question, is it more them than us or vice versa? I think it was just a bad day at the office for Hartford, on top of the fact that we are in such good form right now, and feel that we can beat anyone. And yeah, I can't remember the last time El Paso Locomotive won a game by halftime, you know what I mean? Because this, it was over at that point. And actually I think with how far ahead we jumped, Hartford crumbled even more because they were committing more bodies forward. And I think, I'm getting ahead of myself, but we kind of see that with the very last goal. So yeah, just a lot of mistakes, a lot of being rushed into a play style and a rhythm and a tempo that they didn't want to play at. And combined with some of the missing players. They have Matt Real out. They had a lad at wing back who had a torrid time of it against Armando Moreno in Anaku, I think is his name.
Anaku, yeah. He just... Yeah, rough day at the office. And what's tough is Junior Gonzalez basically like targeted him because Moreno starts on the left, and then like right after Calvillo's opener, I think he switches flanks, and it just like from there it was like, yeah, just not and I think it was Hartford's commentators as well, saying basically like the Anaku experiment at left wing back has failed. But yeah, it's Armando Moreno can do that to much better defenders than a guy who's makeshift.
Yeah, absolutely. And we might as well move right on to Moreno creating the situation for the second goal in the 22nd minute. 10 minutes later after Calvillo's goal, we're already bearing down on their half, and Moreno just like glides past Anaku, is heading for the box. Anaku pulls him back by the shoulder, and of course, you're going to go down. Of course. So yeah, Anaku was a player that was apparently being shoehorned in at wingback due to Hartford's, injury / visa issues. But it's silly. It's a Stonewall penalty. Takes him down from behind. And then who steps up for it, Phil?
Thank God he made it, because Tony Alfaro grabbing the ball, really, I was like,
What are we
I was
doing
like,
here?
we've got so many potential penalty takers on the field right now, and he's just now. The thing is like I'm not in training every day, right? And these guys, they know how. There's plenty of guys who I imagine if they felt they were the better penalty taker, they would have grabbed the ball. But I'm thinking between Eric, Amando, Gabby, like
Diego.
Diego, like there's guys on the field where I'm just like, okay, surely like these are the penalty takers. And no, Tony stepped up. And it's, to be fair, a very, very good penalty. And on a night when Locomotive did something that I don't think they've been able to do in their history, which is make Anthony Siaha look like an average goalkeeper. Because typically we make him look like prime Buffon.
Yeah, I mean, when he was at, was it Monterey? He was such just like a bogey player for us. I'm glad you said that, because I've said on this podcast before, I don't consider myself like a very good judge of like goalkeeping talent per se, but Siaha looked off. Like, I don't think any of these goals were necessarily his fault. And of course, when you concede four, that's a team issue, of course. But he just looked slow. Like, he looked slow. He looked not commanding, really. And I don't know if that has to do with kind of like some of the experimenting, if you will, that they were doing at the back, and he just didn't know how to, organize this back line that had been chopped and changed. But this is like the worst I've ever seen him look. And I'm saying look and not play, because I don't know. I mean, maybe his technique and his basics are down for the goalkeepers who are listening to this, but he looked slow.
Yeah.
I mean,
he had some distribution issues too, like, and it could be that there were changes in the back and guys weren't kind of occupying the areas or playing the patterns that he's used to or whatever. But yeah, there were some issues there as well, which is it's not something that I've ever associated with Siaha, in the sense that like I've always seen him as more of a pure shot stopper and less of a not much of a sweeper or something. But
I mean, I say that,
distribution
and then
was tough for him.
Yeah, I say that, but then he had that like insane save onto Messi.
Yeah,
who that he hits that one that's cut back from Amando, and it's always rising. But I mean, that was the one. Like, okay, that's the Siaha I know.
At some point this season, Chumasi's going to score a banger, because he's had two of the cleanest hits that you will see in your entire life, like in the last two games, I think. And yeah, his like ball striking ability is very, very clean, and I don't think we've really seen much of it until this season. He just seems to be popping up like on these kind of like second phase areas, and one of these times he's gonna hit a banger. But yeah, this time around it's a brilliant save from Siaha. So it wasn't like all down for Siaha. It was just one of those where
we've just seen him be so much better,
be so frustrating.
Yeah.
The interesting thing before we get on to, well, I guess we could probably just talk about the third goal, because it really was like there was this basically momentum from, I mean, I would say like basically minute 5 through probably whenever we scored the fourth goal, where Hartford just didn't offer any threat. Like, there was a little bit of possession that Hartford had at the beginning of the game. And then, I mean, did they cross halfway again with the ball? Like, it was truly like that, sort of desperate. The whole thing was just like really, like, there was no, I don't know. I think we're used to these games where, like, even when Locomotive takes the lead in the past, like, we've had sort of this fragile approach to, like, okay, we've got the lead now, like, cling to it desperately. And this team has a lot more of the like killer instinct, it seems, of they smell the blood in the water and they're like, no, we're gonna like go put this game away. And the third goal kind of had some of these hallmarks of up to nothing, you'd be forgiven for kind of just like playing it safe and kind of holding the ball. And like some of the patterns and things that this Locomotive team is putting together, the moves they're constructing, how they're creating space for each other. It's not safe, but it is like precise in the way that they build into this circle. Obviously it just comes down to it's the scraps that get finished off of the initial shot. But the build up and everything is just like very incisive. And it seems like this team can kind of transition in and out of that a bit more freely than maybe past iterations of Locomotive.
Yeah, I will say, and I wrote about this on Patreon, is that I think in the early, well, maybe not in the early going, but in the last couple of games, I feel like we've seen this Locomotive trade a little bit of control for fast breaks and just like ruthless goal scoring. And I think primarily when we look at Sacramento in retrospect at the Sacramento game, and then of course at Las Vegas Lights, where that's a narrow win, to be fair. Yeah. I had pointed out maybe like, is this sustainable? Like, do we care if the results are coming? And ultimately, where we are at in the season and the context of having a new manager, new players, all that stuff, trying to move on from some of the really lackluster football that we've seen over the past couple seasons, I said, ultimately, yeah, it's fine. Like, for now, that's fine, because you just want to get out to a respectable lead as soon as possible and build momentum as quickly as possible. So to then, after I make that kind of observation, for us to then go 2,000 miles to the east and completely dominate a team and not play kind of the margins was really nice. Like, it's nice to just put a team away and not only take your chances, but also keep the ball. I mean, we kept most of the possession for both halves. And didn't give up very many opportunities at all. I think in the second half, to be fair to Hartford, they did try to come out a little bit more because it's like, what do you have to lose, right?
Yeah.
And ultimately that was their undoing, I think, with the fourth goal. Yeah. I mean,
a bulk of their XG too, I think, comes like after they're 4-0 down.
Right, which like at that point you're playing for pride and trying to just I mean, I don't want to glaze over Abedia's first goal for the club. I think it's actually a really nice touch that he like kind of controls it for himself and then finishes in the box, and that's what you want. That's what you want from the striker. I mean, I personally have been like called up on saying like, are we over reliant on Rubin? So when Rubin sits and you bring in your other guy, that's what you want to see. You need to be contributing so that you're giving the coach something to think about, right? And now we know that Rubin was at home, attending to the birth of his child. So fair play for Diego to take his opportunity and score, because obviously those are big boots to fill, in Rubin's absence. So. But yeah, the third goal is brilliant, and I'm happy for Abedia because I think I said to you guys before before kickoff, like, I want to see something from him because we've really only seen him come on late because Rubin surprisingly has not finished a full 90 yet, and so I feel like we haven't been able to see him make an impact quite in this way. So I'm happy for him for that. And yeah, I think maybe there's a decision to make for the Open Cup game. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure Rubin is raring to go, but if he still needs time with the baby, then I don't know.
I was so eager to talk about the fourth goal that I skipped ahead. But yeah, the off the corner, I will say Abedia like controlling in that space. It's kind of a Rubin goal, like of what we've seen knows where the goal is, like basically taking as few touches as are necessary to create the space to shoot. And yeah, if you're going to be like, cause I mean, obviously we know that Rubin has absolutely like hit the ground running. He's been, I don't think on fire is even like sufficient to describe just how good his goal scoring form has been. And if you're going to be the guy whose minutes are behind that guy, then being able to score the type of goals that he can sort of guarantees that your minutes in his role are like, you are going to get called on in these sort of situations, and you are going to maybe not force a selection dilemma always, but you are going to earn yourself more of this sort of time when Rubin inevitably does need a rest, or God forbid, like gets injured or whatever, just the normal course of the season stuff. So yeah, I think it was good to see Abidia kind of take up a similar role and perform well. And, in the one very, very big opportunity that he gets, he puts it away. And that's the sort of ruthlessness that clearly like the club is starting to possess at the moment. Like the whole squad seems to have a bit of ruthlessness, but Rubin in particular, if you're trying to keep pace with him, this is the sort of chance that you got to take, and Abidia does so very, very well. So yeah, very, very pleased for him.
And I guess I should clarify first league start, because of course he started against Lowry. He scored in that game as well. So I mean, yeah, he's taking his starts and making the most of them. So fair play to him. Yeah,
no, very, very fair. Yeah, I skipped ahead a bit to the fourth goal. You talked a little bit about the fact that in the second half, Hartford's drawn out. They got to do something. There were some quite funny comments towards the end of the match at 4-0 where the commentators were saying like, well, they didn't give up. And it's like, well, yeah, I mean, shit, man. Like, did you think they were going to forfeit at halftime or something? Like, what's the, like, yeah, they are technically still playing. And we're like carving them open with regularity.
They were absolutely bereft. Like the first half was like, you can't blame Brendan Burke. The players need to step up. And then it's like, Anaku is awful. Like, da-da-da. Then it's like visa issues, and it's like, well, they're still playing for professional pride. And it's like, I mean, unless we're going to like really dial up the CBA protests, like they do need to stay until the 90th minute. Like that is a thing.
I do love the idea of the US, like a team walking off down 4-0 at like 65 minutes and being like, no, this has nothing to do with the scoreline. This is a CBA protest. So the fourth goal, born on a counterattack. It wasn't the only chance of this type that Locomotive created like during this period. There were a couple of more, and we probably should also mention the fact that it was Jordan Scarlett who got away with like a clear straight red for denial of goal scoring opportunity. And I feel for Omar Mora, who had come on like at that time and was through on goal, would have had a very good chance to score a league goal for the club as well. And he's actually, I think, speaking of Omar Mora, like I think he's actually done, speaking of taking advantage of the time like that you get on the pitch, he's performed really well, and particularly in the Open Cup game against New Mexico,
absolutely,
he was brilliant, and just put in a lot of hard yards. That all being said, the fourth goal, Gabby Torres scraps at the back post, and off of the initial save, and maybe this was the other Siaha thing where it's like it just feels like one of those where the fact that it ends up in somebody's path versus ending up, behind or like palmed away is maybe that's kind of why this game felt a little bit different from a typical Siaha performance, but against Locomotive anyways. So, but yeah, the build up and the ability to hit teams on the counter, like I guess this game kind of had all sorts where it's like we scored not directly from, but in the aftermath of a set piece, we scored from a counter pressing goal, we scored from the penalty spot, and we scored on a counter attack. So like kind of showed all of the different ways in which this Locomotive team can harm you offensively.
Yeah, and I'm glad that we were able to put away the game, like for sure, in the second half. I think maybe this goal is the one where it's like where I go back to like, part of this result is just it not being Hartford's night, because there's just mistake after mistake after mistake in this sequence. Because first Anaku gives the ball away, right, to Moreno, to start the move, and then Moreno is allowed to run like 40 yards undisturbed. I think at some point, who was the defender who, all the defense was like in two minds about what to do with him. Like, I'm like, you've been fouling all night.
Dispay probably, he was on that side.
And Fisher, I think too. Fisher like backed off Moreno and just allowed him like all the space. And it's just like, of all the challenges y'all have made tonight, like this is the time to foul and take that yellow card. Because you're just letting this man run riot, and it's, we're over an hour gone. Like, come on now. So, I mean, Moreno was just basically allowed unfettered access to their penalty area. Shoots across the keeper, which, of course, that's tricky for any keeper. But I do think, like, again, like, it's just weird from Siaha. Like, he parries it right into the path of Hartford X Gavi Torres, who's completely unmarked, to be fair, steaming in on the left side, and he scores the fourth. But like, I don't know. I feel like Siaha could have parried it like out for a corner, maybe. Like, I don't know. I don't know. It just doesn't look great. I don't know.
Yeah.
But more than that, the mistakes in front of him were just too much to overcome. So again, not even really trying to blame Siaha. It's just that we've seen so much better. So yeah, this goal in particular, I think Hartford was just like a shambles, and completely exposed because they had put so many bodies forward, like you said. So just a rough night overall for them. And yeah, 4-0.
Should we talk a little bit about Amando Moreno? Because I would say last season, despite the fact that goal total ends up pretty high, overall contributions kind of down from where he would typically be. It felt like maybe he was a little disconnected from the rest of the attack at times and was kind of like doing his own thing. And like, it didn't feel as cohesive and all this sort of stuff. There were times I think where, we were maybe a little bit critical of the fact that like when we were critical of the team for the way that we tried to play to Moreno, because we would just hoof it and be like, go chase it, young man. It's like, we're not really playing to his strengths. He's not getting the ball to feet, not able to hurt people on the dribble, like all the sort of stuff that you think about when you think about Amando Moreno. And it just seems like there is something about the way that this team is playing right now, combined with him in particular, and he's just been much more of a menace to start the season to defensive players. It feels like he's just able to have like more of an impact, and he's doing a lot more with his, I think you even talked about it during the game, just like that first touch receiving the ball when he's getting the ball to feet, like he just has a very good way of like directing that first touch away from the defender, creating a little bit of dribbling space for himself or passing space for himself, like whatever the next move is. And he's getting the goals. So it does feel like Amando Moreno is kind of like maybe reinvigorated in this side, at least early on. Obviously long old season, like I said, but it does feel a little bit different from Amando Moreno in terms of his contribution. And he's been just like unplayable at times in these opening games.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not the only one who's noticed this, but he looks like svelte. Like he looks very fit, and like he's maybe trimmed a couple pounds, put on some more muscle in the off season and in preseason. So he looks great physically. He's moving really well. You're right to bring up the first touch. Like, I didn't know you could approve your first touch at age 30, but here we go. He's taking the ball down incredibly, pouncing on mistakes, putting fear into his opponents because he's just such a menace with the ball at his feet. And if the ball breaks to him, you're in trouble, as Anaku found out. I also think, though, and maybe this is more this is conjecture on my part, but I do think he dovetails well with a main center forward. I mean, I think, not to bring up that team from up north, but like when he would combine with like Devin Sandoval, like it, like same kind of thing. Like he was really good for New Mexico with kind of a big man up top. And so Rubio Rubin coming in and kind of sharing that attacking load, I think has only been good for Armando, because I don't think you could say the same thing about Beto Avila or even Andy Cabrera, because he was a goal scorer, but he's almost in the same kind of mold as Armando, right? And Frank Lopez did F all for us, so I think it is helping him to have that, like, real center forward to play off of and play through. And I count Abidia in that, by the way, because I think Abidia has, in this game in particular, really showed that he can link up and that he can, be that presence in the center of the pitch. So, center top. So yeah, I think Moreno's benefiting from his own hard work off the pitch, in the gym, but also being able to share kind of the attacking load, both in terms of actually on the stat sheet, but mentally as well.
And level now in the league with Rubio Rubin on goals, four apiece in the league. Just you hesitate to say after the four league games that we played, you hesitate to say like, or I guess, wait, we're up to 6 league games now? 7? That seems impossible. No, okay, sorry, these are cup matches too. Yeah, sorry. So after
five.
I was
7 total.
7 total matches, which, I mean, say it quietly, but Locomotive now 6 wins on the spin in all competitions, which is rarefied air. I'd be willing to bet you're not going to come across many six straight win.
Well,
spells.
I mean, address this listener's question real quick then at
Let's
BLT_gamers. After 8 seasons, is this the best start in club history across all league and tournament matches?
This is a verifiable fact, I guess. I
think it's just a yes, unabashedly.
I think having to, like, I feel compelled to look it up just in case, but like the only season that could possibly have, no, because even the seasons where we were good under Lowry, we lost in the cup. So there's certainly no way that we started a season this strong.
I will look it up for you because I wrote about it. This is the best start in club history.
That's right.
Gonzalez has guided Locomotive to now 6 wins and a draw. The only other Locomotive manager to go undefeated in the same amount of fixtures is Mark Lowry, when he opened the 2021 campaign with 3 wins and 3 draws. So yes, best start in club history across all comps. So yeah, crazy.
Yeah, I think the only season that probably came close would have been 2021. Which was that season where we should have won a USL Cup, but instead we lost in the first round to Oakland. But that season we started unbeaten in the league for the first 8 matches. We were unbeaten in the league, and then we lost.
But there were more draws in that, right?
But yeah, there were 3 draws, and 3 draws in there. So now then we didn't then we went on a streak where we didn't lose again for like 10 or 12 matches or something. A ways to go in the league there, but yeah, in terms of start, and certainly over the last few seasons, like, this is completely insane, because normally we've lost inside the first, before the first match is even technically over. So
I do want to point out, just because, I think most of the second half was kind of a formality once we scored the fourth, but was this like objectively Tony Alfaro's best game in a Locomotive shirt? Because he scores a goal from the penalty spot. Then he has that insane goal line clearance in the 77th minute.
Yeah.
And then he really didn't put a foot wrong otherwise.
Yeah.
So I criticize Tony a lot because I think he can be very boneheaded in some of his decisions, but it was a very good performance from him.
I think this maybe shows kind of the why Tony hit the levels that he did in terms of playing the game. He's played in MLS. He's played at a quite high level domestically, and
MLS champion, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
and so I think this match maybe shows kind of the heights of what Tony Alfaro is capable of, when he just does kind of the basics.
Also, I think being in a 3 helped.
Being in a 3 did seem to help.
Yeah.
I think what's interesting maybe too is when he played with 2 more adventurous, because Chumasi and Ortiz, actually both of them go on adventures at one point, just straight Frodo Baggins, where they're just, I thought honestly it was a crime that Palermo Ortiz did not hit the ball after he's just out here.
He dribbled someone.
He dribbled 2 people and he was so shocked that he hadn't been dispossessed that his controller unplugged. He was so
he needed to leather that one.
Where he just needed to put his laces through it and just see what happened, because he could have maybe scored the greatest goal in Locomotive history. But all that being said, I think playing with those 2 guys maybe mellowed Tony out a little bit, where he's like, hey, my job is here.
And stopper.
Because it seems like sometimes when he gets a little bit aggressive in kind of charging out, and he just finds himself in trouble a little bit, either getting to things late or finding himself in yellow card trouble and stuff like that. In this game, he just really stayed out of trouble. And then he was there when the team needed him to be that last man on the line, right? He was able to react because he kind of had these 2 other defenders who are maybe a little bit more proactive, a little bit more I'm going to go. Because I think one of the things that sticks out to me about this game is how the smothering of Hartford had a lot to do with the fact that they just weren't able to get the ball in to the feet of anybody who can actually do something. They were just really sniffing out a lot of, anytime anyone's getting around the penalty area, Chumasi's dispossessing.
Yep.
Palermo Ortiz is stepping out. Tony is stepping into a passing lane or winning a header, and all that sort of stuff just really added up. But yeah, I would totally agree with you that this was Tony's best game, and maybe a commercial for why he's not getting as many games in a back 4, where it's been Noah and Kofi as the 2 preferred pairs. But in the right matchup, or if the situation dictates and we do shift to a back 3, I think Tony's made quite a strong case for him to be in there.
I mean, he helps preserve Sebastian Moramora's clean sheet. I don't know that Moramora had much to do in this game, so does it help us at all, to think about the goalkeeping conundrum, or this is not even a data point because we just thrashed them so hard?
I really thought that some of Romero's penalty area command against Lights, I think it was Lights, I really thought that was going to be the thing that kind of shifted my opinion, where I'm okay, I think I prefer Moramora over on balance, because Romero's just doing too much way on of like flailing at stuff
and
maybe not being commanding enough in the box. But then this game, I was like, more and more is kind of doing that stuff too. Like there were a couple of corners where he just gets like nowhere near it, and the one he injures himself running into Palermo, where it's like he doesn't even get a foul. He doesn't even get a foul for like knocking himself on his ass, and that's requires the Alfaro goal line clearance. And so I'm like, well, damn. Now I like the thing that I was holding against Romero now more and more is also doing. So I don't like it's one of those where I'm like, maybe I just don't know. And maybe that's all this is this extended audition for like who's going to really make the number one shirt theirs. Cause I would have told you after Sac Republic that, well, more and more is a guy. And then like, that wasn't the case. And, now, I mean, who's to say? It does feel like it's more and more like he's like our touring keeper, and Romero plays it in the house band. So yeah,
I mean, yeah, it's anyone's guess who's gonna be putting the shirt on against Houston, but yeah, no, yeah, I agree. I don't know what it is anymore, because they both have their merits, but I would like to see it settled sooner rather than later, but hey.
Yeah.
I mean, another interesting point from this game, Phil, only us and a certain Dom Casciato's Tampa Bay Rowdies remain undefeated. So we ended Hartford's undefeated start, so it's just us in the West and Tampa Bay in the East after, a shocking 2025. So nowhere to go but up for them, and maybe for us as well in some ways. But interesting storylines there, right? The Mark Lowry effect.
Yeah. Yeah, very interesting in that it's, we've got Dom Casciato, former Lowry assistant, like now he's built, he's carved out his own career in earnest for, from a head coaching standpoint, because he won a couple of League One titles at Omaha. He's now at Rowdies doing sort of their, leading their revitalization of a team that is very much used to being at the top of the East, like historically, that's had a couple of rough seasons. And then Junior Gonzalez, the guy who, to us, Mark said, like, this is a guy who, if I had my druthers, like, this would be the guy who takes over for me. And man, we could have skipped a lot of heartache if this trend continues. If we had just gone with his advice, but no, I think it's a very interesting story in the sense that both of them are connected, and the locomotive connections. If there's anyone that I'm pulling for in the East, up until the point that either we play them in the regular season or meet in the final. I certainly am pulling for Dom, and just to see the locomotive sort of influence and the Lowry coaching tree.
The coaching tree.
To see that is very cool. And I'm sure Mark is watching with interest. The Rowdies project. I will say, like, amidst all of the excitement and hype, and rightfully so, it's been earned. Like, the locomotive fans in particular have not had a whole lot to cheer over the last few seasons. So the idea that, like, we have a serious team that is doing the business and getting good results to open the season is not something I like turn my nose up at by any stretch of the imagination. And I think, like, the conversation around control in particular, like, just making sure that this team doesn't fall victim to some of the stuff that has happened in the past, which is, like, kind of getting dragged into nonsense, like, when they're the better side, and getting pulled down to their level. I thought something that Locomotive did actually quite effectively, although it did start to maybe turn towards the end, was not getting kind of both against New Mexico in the Cup and against Hartford, they were able to avoid getting truly pulled into the depths of people trying to get people sent off, like having little after stuff like that. And, historically, I don't think Locomotive's done a particularly good job at managing emotions in those moments. And we've had some like very, very stupid handbags and stuff like that just, I think like when you're the better side, like not getting pulled into that is important. And that combined with, I do still have some questions like control wise in the games, like when we're playing really, really good teams, do we give up like a little bit too good of chances to hang in some of these like big games? Because it's obviously worked out, but Sac Republic, that game still sticks in my mind of like, we should have lost, like in terms of chances created, like we should have lost that game and we didn't. And it was like, and obviously it's impacted by the sending off and all that stuff, but we can't afford to do stuff like that. Now, good news is like, we haven't really had that. And I'm starting to suspect that New Mexico might be pretty bad. And I'm starting to suspect that this Hartford team might be pretty bad. So I want to like, it's one of those things that I just want to keep an eye on because we've struggled a little bit, just allowing like a little bit too good of chances sometimes. And I think even against Vegas, like we had that moment where it's like, we gave up some pretty good chances and kind of let them back into a game that they were, we were kind of threatening to do this, and instead we got dragged back into like a tight game where we had to see it out. So that's the stuff that I'm just a little bit like, can we, amidst all of the other like excitement and stuff, and not trying to take away from it, but just like my paranoia is around just like, can we stop conceding like the better chances and truly like freeze teams out? Because I think that'll be important to keeping this sort of run going. And I think it's also important to know for everybody that like the odds of us, there's probably going to be a loss like somewhere around here, and it's not the end of the world. Like, so we'll just,
look no further than Wednesday. We are facing MLS opposition. So yeah.
Well, maybe that's a good way to talk about Wednesday. What do we know about Houston?
Well, before we move on to that, I do want to
just
throw one more question at you.
Oh boy.
At both of us. At Texas Music Kid on Twitter, Cody James Bachmeyer, of course. He says, will the hosts admit they were skeptical about the roster and are surprised by the results? I don't think we have to admit anything. There's receipts of us being like, not feeling it, not moved. But yes, I'm absolutely surprised. I'm pleasantly surprised.
Yep.
I'm thrilled. As I wrote on Patreon, I do think that there is room for more game management, and maybe that will come with the settling of the goalkeeping situation and, Junior getting to grips with his team. But, I'm always happy to be wrong about these kind of things. And sometimes, I'll speak for myself, Phil, but like sometimes I allow myself to get more down on a team so that if it's good, it's like, great. Pleasantly surprised, but like if it's bad, it's like, well, I thought it was going to be bad. So sport fan logic, what can I say?
I think, as you said, like, happy to be wrong. I think when you look at the reality of the big moves that we made in the offseason, the two players where we're like, hey, these are serious moves are Rubio Rubin and Alex Mendez. And amidst all of that, like, those are two guys who were bit players
at
last
their
season.
Clubs. Yeah.
And now there's a lot of different reasons for that. Alex Mendez also like joined. Now he was like very good on Tampa Bay, on like a poor Tampa Bay side. and he joined mid-season, like late in the season and all of this stuff. So I think there's like some more mitigation maybe for Mendez, but Rubio Rubin like spent a year in Charleston and like barely played. Didn't really, I mean, in terms of contribution, it's pretty good for the amount of minutes that he played, but he just played so little that I'm like, is there something there? Like, is there something going on? Is there like a mentality issue? Like, you know, there's just all these things that could be the reason that he doesn't play on a very good Charleston team. And so when you don't have the evidence, it's hard to piece together like, okay, yeah, I can see how this team might be like very good for the Western Conference. And then combine that with like a new coach that we haven't seen in a, you know, managing a senior side. And we've been down that road before of like a guy in his first like real head coaching gig. Not to say that Junior hasn't been a head coach. Of course he has, but of MLS reserve teams, like just to call it what it is. But we've seen the like assistant thing and just like how it doesn't necessarily translate and all this different stuff. So I think like throughout this, more than a skepticism of the individuals and more than a skepticism of like, you know, the quality of the players, because I think like these are all professionals. They're all good players, like to a certain extent. I think what we were maybe more so saying was that we have a skepticism of the club because the last 4 years have been like abject in terms of like how the club has done business, how they've interacted with fans, how they've built the roster. Like, so the evidence that we have, while we have like limited minutes of footage on either Mendez or Rubin, who are like marquee signings, even guys like, you know, Jimmy Farkaloon coming in, I don't think anybody had footage outside of the film room of El Paso Locomotive's academy on Kenneth Hoban and what to expect there. We literally saw him for 1 minute last season. So these are all things that, like, before a ball is kicked, it's very hard to piece together. The thing that I knew going into the season is that Locomotive does a pretty poor job of this historically, like, and has mismanaged it basically ever since Lowry left. And I think the amazing thing about what's happened this season and what I'm very pleased about is that it does feel different this year. Like, for, you know, however that's come about, whether it's the general manager change, whether it's Junior, whether it's, you know, other changes in the front office, whatever, there's a lot of different reasons you could like chalk it up, but it does feel different. And like that, I am most happy to be wrong about, because all we had to go off of was like, this is how the club's done business. And more often than not, they fuck it up. And this year, it seems like they've gotten a lot of stuff right. And I just like, that's the thing that I'm maybe most happy to be wrong about, because like the roster stuff, like a lot of that is going to be guesswork of, I've seen this guy play in a totally different context. Can that translate? Maybe so, maybe not, whatever. Like, you're trying to piece together a lot of moving parts. The thing that I'm most happy about is that it just feels like the club is maybe in a better position from an overall operations standpoint than it historically has been.
Yeah, no, absolutely, well said. I'm just happy that like the results are so good that like we low key forgot about Crystal Fernandez, like that
which
he might
in Canada somewhere.
I think that was an April Fool's joke.
Was that an April Fool's joke too?
Hopefully.
We're doing
either
April
that,
Fool's
or
jokes?
he's actually just Abraham Romero, and like he's playing a goal for us.
Hey, serious question: have you seen them both in the same room at the same time?
Not ever.
Because maybe this is a hard relaunch of.
Yeah.
Danny's brother, Danny Rojas's brother, is a goalkeeper who's going to be joining in season 4 of Ted Lasso or whatever.
Yeah, no, I mean, in all seriousness, it's great. It's great what we're seeing. The vibes are good. The football is fun to watch. Like, at the end of the day, we just want to be entertained, you know, on some gladiator shit. No, but yeah. Shall we talk Houston Dynamo? Copa
Yeah.
Tejas, I guess.
Yeah, we Copa Tejas technically. Is that still running? Does this count?
So. I think so. I think MLS plays for their own version. I don't know. Something. Forgive me for not knowing the ins and outs.
No, it's yeah, very very interesting. I mean, I think Houston Dynamo won an interesting draw because they're pretty crap. At least to start they've won 2, lost 4 to open the season in MLS. They had a whole, and I don't know the whole story. But wasn't there some kind of drama with like Hector Herrera was like iced out and now is like back?
I don't know, but that wouldn't surprise me. I mean, that sounds very on for like a DP signing.
The story for Houston, I mean, they're coming off of a 6-2 loss to Colorado. So porous, maybe.
Oh, I mean, yeah, they got thumped out at Rapids last time out in the league. They are tied for second most goals conceded in the Western Conference of MLS, so 16 goals conceded. So yeah, porous is fair enough. And I mean, if it's not Guillermo Augusto creating or scoring the goals, the drop off in productivity from the rest of the team is pretty steep after him. I'd be shocked if he plays against us, but who knows? To be fair, they are coached by Ben Olsen, who is a 2-time U.S. Open Cup winner, both with DC United and with Houston Dynamo, as recently as, was it 2023 when they beat Inter Miami? Messi-less Inter Miami, but still. You know, that's a game that, like, Sergio Busquets played 90 minutes in, so, like, fair play. And he won both of those cups on the road. This time he'll be playing host to us. So yeah, I mean, Ben Olsen's got priors as far as this competition is concerned. So I don't think we can look past that. But what I think is really interesting is that they've got a certain USL Golden Boot winner in Nick Marcanic on loan.
Yep.
And I think he could feature because he's been coming off the bench. So this seems like a good opportunity for him to start. So that would be very interesting to see Marcanic, who used to light up our league, 30 goals for Charleston that one season, which is insane. So yeah, Houston, I mean, they're not very good, but they are still, you know, not that far removed from winning this competition, and they've got experience, you know, all up and down the roster and in the technical area. So I don't think we can take this lightly. I would just absolutely love to get one over on them, especially when I, you know, think back to Austin and how well we played and didn't win. So yeah, I would love to get an MLS scalp finally. I think that would just be amazing. But it's a big ask. It's a big ask, I think.
It's one of those things where I think, like, in terms of being able to achieve it, all that sort of stuff, like, I think it's well within the realm of possibility. They played on Saturday, same as us, which is nice. They had a little less travel, to be fair. But I think the thing where ultimately, you know, a thing that will make a difference, even though Junior's been able to be very smart about managing the squad, is that at the end of the day, they've got like 37 players that they can go to. And I'm not saying all of them are like worthy of being, you know, involved in this game, but just legs wise, like, they've just got a big ol' pool that they can dip into, and we've just got a more limited squad comparatively.
Right.
Now, in terms of, I hope they dig deep into the well. I think there's a possibility, given how poor the start to the season's been, that they prioritize the cup. Given that they are like down in the doldrums of the Western Conference. So do we run into a little bit of, them trying to salvage the season by prioritizing the Open Cup, which is probably the easier path to silverware. But I think on our day against like a poor, a side like not that confident, I'd imagine there'd probably be some idea that Guilherme like doesn't play, just like, do you play a guy like that in a Open Cup game against championship opposition? Like, I don't know.
I think that would be insane, but I guess.
Yeah, but probably if you need a goal, you do the Brandon Vasquez, right? Of just like, yep, just tuck him on and just hope that he saves your season. And then he did. So, but all that being said, it's interesting because I think when I think about how we played last season, the energy, like when we played against Austin, that team kind of just ran out of gas. And I think the one thing that maybe gives me a little bit more confidence going into this is the fact that we just seem maybe less prone to running out of gas. I think, there's a very real possibility that they just exert a level of like, they just have maybe a better edge in quality and they're able to take that. But I guess for us, I don't see us just like running out of steam and conceding 3 goals, like in the way I think if this team finds a way to be up 2-0, like I think there's just a better chance that they hold on to that with this squad. But yeah, I don't know. I got to tell you, Rubio Rubin scoring in Houston is just something that would be needed. Yeah, that would be a very sweet moment. Gosh, I mean, the fact that we're even having conversations about the Open Cup that don't involve us losing to lower tier opposition is it's rarefied air, and it's nice to be talking about it. That yeah, we're talking about. Do you think we can beat this MLS side?
It used to be. Do you think we could beat this USL League One side?
Yeah. Us talking last season pessimistically about our chances against Harpos from the Colorado Premier League. So yeah.
We've come a ways. Yeah.
But yeah, Wednesday night, it is appointment television for any Locomotive fan. And hopefully they can pull something off and maybe submit for the hosting rights for the following round so that we can host an MLS side in the swap. But I think I'm not sure why that doesn't happen, but I think it has to do with minor league baseball. So
bring me Messi. No, that might actually gridlock the city. That's probably not good. Actually.
Messi would not make that trip. He'd be like,
"No, you're right. He would never." That's probably in his contract, no baseball stadiums.
Yeah. I wonder, does he? There's no way. He's probably not playing at Yankee Stadium even.
Nah.
The chance of slipping on a turf monster and just not.
Yeah.
Not something he's willing to do.
Right. Exactly.
No amount of Pepsi shares in the world will get him to. But,
well, we shall see. We shall see how it goes. I think it'll be entertaining, if anything.
Now, do you think MLS? Do you think with the Open Cup, will the championship players convince the MLS guys to participate in the CBA protest?
That is an interesting question. I hadn't even considered that. That would be really weird, right?
Cross-league labor solidarity.
Imagine they're not the whistle blows. We're protesting and they just score on us. It'd be giving
scabs,
that one
scabs crossing the picket line to score a goal.
What was that one game that was it was like Leeds and somebody. Do you remember this when they like allowed someone to score because it was
yes. Was that Jesse Marsh? Was Jesse Marsh in charge at that time?
But you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah. Where they basically they felt like maybe they scored, a guy had a head injury or there was some kind of like something.
Aston where Villa. It was it was Bielsa. Bielsa allowed.
Oh, it was Bielsa. That's right. And then yeah. And he forced the team to go. He forced the team to go score on themselves.
Insane,
man. National treasure Bielsa. Bring him back.
Oh my god.
Get Bielsa back into football.
How's he not in MLS right now? Oh, wait, is he still with Uruguay? Now we're off.
Might be
Uruguay national team. Yep.
Yeah. That's why. So maybe post World Cup, he just stays in the U.S. and he takes the. What would be the funniest city for Bielsa to manage in? I'm thinking Portland, Oregon.
Interesting.
Like vibes wise, is that the least Bielsa city?
Dude, he needs to go to like San Jose Earthquakes. Like just an absolutely hopeless team.
Oh man, go manage Timo Werner.
Hey, I mean, that's very much a Bielsa kind of player. We're officially like way off the rails now, but
go run around. Go Timo, go run around. We are way adrift now, but big game on Wednesday. And then in the league, I don't know why I'm blanking on who Locomotive play at the weekend. Because we are right back into it, I think. No break like last time.
It's San Antonio, is it not?
That's right. Oh, so Texas.
Texas Hold'em.
Yep, San Antonio.
Who
at home
look absolutely crap last time I watched them, but yet they are third.
Yeah. Let's see what happened to San Antonio the last time they played. They got the
breaks beat off them by Orange County.
Oh yeah, that's
last
right.
Week I was watching that and I was like, "What is happening?" They look terrible, and then they were knocked out, I think, by Tulsa in the Open Cup.
Yeah, and then they played.
Not been a good.
They played an absolutely just dreadful 0-0 draw against Miami, over the weekend. So. Yeah, they probably still should have won, just XG wise, but yeah, something's a little bit busted about the new era of San Antonio. After this is over, I'm going to send you a screenshot of this pass map from their game against Miami because it's
terrorism.
It's like, hey, what if all the players just played in the center circle? And Miami
they're just doing a rondo for the CBA protest.
And Miami said bet because they did the same exact. This is crazy. No wonder they didn't score any goals. But anyways, yeah. So San Antonio over the weekend. So that should be, I think, dreamland if Locomotive are still talking about wins over two Texas opponents by the end of the week, but we will be here for all of it. I also I will just say I am moving.
So it is up in sticks.
So I'm gonna be moving and to well, I'll talk about it more when I get out there, but I am moving. So if there's any disruptions to like recording and any of that stuff, it's because I am relocating and for a new work opportunity. And it's taking me towards our nation's capital. It's not that sort of work, just so you know, for anyone concerned.
To
the DMV.
Nova.
Yeah, exactly.
Taking your talents to Redacted.
Yeah, I'm not. Again, it's not. I haven't been recruited or anything. So
yeah, so we'll do our best to keep the content going, but hey, life.
All of my studio stuff is going out there with me, so I will be.
Hell yeah.
My goal is to be ready to record because I will be briefly living in my parents' house, which I will need something to do. So
fair
yeah.
enough.
But yeah, so anyways, hope everybody enjoyed this episode, and we will be hopefully back talking about a couple more Locomotive wins. But what a start to the season, what a win over Hartford. And yeah, let's go Locos on a Wednesday night in Houston. Like I said at the top of the pod, if you want to, you can find us on any podcast platform you want, and find us on Patreon, read the stuff. And yeah, we'll see you next time. But until then, stay loco.